Hello guys, welcome back to the part 2 of our RestAPI Authentication series. And in this very video, we're going to be picking up right from where we stopped. In our last video, we were able to implement the sign-up endpoint where user were able to register and also send a verification codes to the user, which is our OTP code, through email. Alright, so in this very video, we're going to create an endpoint to verify a user email with that code. And also, we're going to create the endpoint to actually log the user in and generate a JSON Web Token for the user. So we're going to start by creating a class which we're going to call verify user email. So this class is going to inherit from the generic API view. So basically what we want to do in this place, in this endpoint or this view, is to receive the token that was sent to the user and validate it if it's a valid token. And I mean the passcode, the OTP code that was sent. Then if it is valid and it matches what is associated with the user, we then verify the user. So at this point, we are going to just define a post request because the user is going to be posting the OTP code to us. So we're going to say self and we'll be taking request. And here we're going to receive the OTP code. Okay, just say .get. We want to get the OTP code, which we're going to call OTP or whatever we'll call it. All right. So once we grab that, we want to put it in the transet block. So first we will try to query the one-time password because we created a one-time password of a model that associates a OTP code to the user. Remember in the last video we did that. Model. So in here we're going to try and get the user's code object. So we're going to query the one-time password .get. We want to try and get the object where the code is equals to our OTP code. All right. So once we get the user object code, we want to actually get the user object from this code. So we're going to say user will now be equals to user object code dot user. So we need to check if probably the user have not done this before, if this is the first time of applying that particular OTP code, because remember it's a one-time passcode. We don't want the code to be used twice, so we only want the code to be active just once. We'll check if not user dot is verified. So if the user is not verified, means the user have not actually applied the code before. So for that reason, we want to verify the user. So we're going to say user dot is verified. We want to set it to true. I want to save the user because now it's called the save method to save these changes that were made to the user. So once we save the changes, we want to return a response so that user can know that their action was successful. We're going to return a very simple object with the message. So here we just say account email verified successfully, and here we want to put in the status code. That also means that it was verified successfully. Then if once the user has already verified and maybe the user will click or resends the same token, we also want to return a response. This time we'll just tell the user token is invalid or token has expired, account is already verified, something like that. Alright, so we can just put in something like that. And here we can just give it the status code. Maybe we can just give it a 204, no contents found. Alright, so that's that. So in the except block, except there was no token at all, the user object does not have a token, so we can just put something like that, says except one-time password does not exist. If that's the case, we want to also return a response to the user, and we also want to give the status of found. All right, I think that's all for our verify user email. Let's go through it one more time. So what we basically do here is we receive the OTP that we send to the user. The user gives us back that OTP code. Then we try to get the user object from our one-time password object. That's a one-time password model. So we query for that. Then we get the user object from the one-time password object because they have a one-to-one relationship. So once we have the user object, then we check if the user object is not already verified. So if the user object is not verified, we verify the user object as the user in our model. Then we save the user model. So once we do that, we return a response to the user saying account email verified successfully with the status of 200. Then if maybe the user have already verified and now for some reason we click the submit button again, we give the user a response that says code is now invalid. Code is invalid. User already verified with a status code of 204, which no content found. Then if for some reason the code is not in the database or we don't have in our one-time password model, so we have the .not exist exceptions. They want to raise a passcode not provided, not found, something like that. So right now we need to bring this into our JWT file. In here we just bring it in. We create the path. So we save that. So we can actually test out our verified user account. So if we head back to our browser, we can see the very last user's email, which is passcode is still here. And if peradventure we set the passcode to expire at a particular time, probably code would have been expired by now, and we create a mechanism for the user to receive a new code that you see in most popular mobile apps. So that's not a difficult task to do, like I explained in our previous tutorial. And you can see the package is the Python package for generating and verifying one-time password, so especially used for two-factor authentication. So you can actually use this package. It's very easy to use to generate your passcode and set a time interval for it so that the passcode can expire at a particular time. All right, so that's that. But for this tutorial, we want to keep it simple. We don't want the token to expire. We just want to send them a token to verify their email and they give us back the token. So let's quickly test out this other token that was sent to this user. All right, the test user 2. So if we grab this token and we head over to Postman, this time we want to create a new endpoint to send that token back to not /register this time, but /verified email, right email, and it's a post request and is expecting a body. Let's use a JSON format. Then it's expecting OTP. I want to pass in the OTP code. All right, so get the account email verification verified successfully. All right, so this user account was able to be verified. So if we try to resend it again, maybe we will click, you can see the code is invalid, user already verified. All right, so our endpoint is working fine. What we need to do next is we need to start working on our JWT Token authentication so users can actually log in into our site. So what we do, first of all, we create a new endpoint called class. We just call it login user. All right, login user view, and this we can also make this a generic view. Also, we need a serializer class because we're going to create a login serializer because we are expecting two things from the user, which is password and the email. All right, so we've not created this serializer yet, so we're going to just call it login serializer. Or we can just create the inputs serializer, which also doesn't exist. So we need to go to our serializer.py file and create the login serializer. And this we can just put pass for now. We'll come back to this so we can save so that that error can. All right, so once we have the serializer, we want to define our post request. All right, so here we're going to get the login data because serializer and assign it to the self.serializer is going to be our request data. All right, that's the data that is being sent by the user. So we need to check if the serializer is valid. So say serializer is valid. I want to raise exception to true. Remember that this is valid method is going to call the serializer validate method. All right, so if it's valid, we want to generate a token for the user. All right, so that's what we're going to do here. So let's quickly implement the serializer, and in here we want to define the feeds that we want to have. We want the email. It's going to be serializers. Now we can also add the email length also. All right, so Password feed, same thing, serializer.password chat feed, and this wants to be write only equals true. Alright, so we can also set a mask length also. Alright, that's for the password. Then we also need other read only feeds. These are feeds that will be returned back to us by our serializer. So we're going to add the full name, access token, and refresh token. So these are just read only feeds. This feed will not be provided by the user, but it will be returned back to the user. Alright, so we don't want it to return only the JSON word token. We want to return the full name and other feeds. So once we have this out of the way, we can create our class meta, set the model equals to our user model. So here we're going to define our validate method. So this is the method that is valid property calls. Alright, so here we're going to just get our email from our attribute.get the email. This will give us the email that is being sent by the user and the password. We want to authenticate the user with the password and the email and generate a token for them. But we need the authenticate method from Django.contrib.auth. So we're going to import that. We're going to import the authenticate, and this authenticate is going to take in the password, the email, and a request object. So we need to send the request object to our serializer. So we'll head back to the view where we have our data. We can just add a context to it equals our request object. Alright, so our serializer can get the request object. So we'll head back to the serializer, and here we can access the request object by using the the context get. So once we get that, we want to authenticate the user by creating a variable called user with the authenticate method, passing a request, passing the email equals to the email, any password, and so first of all we need to check if this is actually what this authenticate will do for us is actually to look up our user database if these credentials, if there's any user that has these credentials to us. So that's what this check will do for us. So we'll now say if not user. So we're going to check if for any reason the user does not exist. So we actually want to raise an error. So we're going to we need to import authentication fee from REST framework. So I'm going to say from REST_framework.exception, we want to import the authentication fee. So in here, I want to pass a custom message by saying invalid, try again. This should be invalid, not invalid. Okay. So if the user credentials exist in our database, we want to call the token method user.token. We want to execute this method to generate a token for this user. Remember, in our model we have this token feed, which we are going to do right now. We've not actually written any functionalities for this. We'll do this shortly. So we'll call that. This will actually generate a token for the user. We can just save this in a variable called, let's say, token. For this, we actually generate both the access token and the refresh token. So after that, we want to return an object of the token and a dictionary of return a dictionary. Alright, so this we're going to return both the email of the user, which is going to be coming from the user, and we want to also return the full name of the user. Remember, we also have a full name property method here, get full name. Alright, so it's a property method, so we can access it like every other property. Alright, so once we do that, we also want the access token. This thing is going to come from the tokens. What we do, before we finish up this place, let's quickly create the token method. Let's go back to our model. Alright, for us to actually generate tokens for our user, we'll be using the Django REST framework simplejwt package, which is a very popular package for generating JWT token. Alright, so if we head over to the documentation of the package, there's a lot of things that the package brings for us. And first of all, you need to install it with the pip. We've done that already. So if you've not done yours, just run pip install Django REST framework -simplejwt. So once we do that, there are some settings we need to bring into our app. So first of all, we need to set our REST framework default authentication class to use JWT Token. Alright, so we can just grab this and bring this into our apps and into our project settings. In here, just above the auth user model, we can just dump that here and then move this string. What this is actually doing is actually telling our REST API to use JWT Token. So if we head back, you can see by default the simplejwt provides for us two views that we can use out of the box to generate token for us, to generate a refresh token and an access token. Alright, so if you just bring this into your app, into your URL settings, into your URL.py file, and you just create your endpoint, you can use it out of the box, and this will actually generate for you a access token and a refresh token. So they give us a way to actually create token manually. So if you go to the creating token manually, you can see a way for us to generate our token. So this is what we're going to be using in this tutorial to generate the token and also return it along with the user data. So I'll grab this and then bring that in here. Alright, so once we have that here, in here we can call refresh. Every refresh, we call the refresh token. Alright, then this refresh token has different methods. You can see you can use the access token and so many other methods, but what we want is for user, we want to specify the user that this token is going to be encoding, on which is going to be a user object. You can check, it says it's expecting a user object. So we're going to pass our self, which is our own user object in this case. Alright, once we have that, we just want to return a dictionary of the refresh token, which in this case is we're going to convert to string of refresh. This will give us the refresh token, and also we also want the access token, which we're going to call access. In this case, we also want to convert it to string, and this time it's going to be our refresh.access token. Alright, so this will actually return for us the refresh token and the access token. So that's all we need to do here. So we save this. Then in our serializer, where we call this token method, this will actually give us the user token. So we can just call this user underscore token or tokens. Alright, so apart from that, there are still some other settings that we need to provide. So if we go back to our documentation, come to settings, you can see some of the general settings that we can do to customize the behavior of our tokens, like the access token lifetime and the refresh token lifetime. So we just grab the access and the refresh token settings file, then we want to bring the simple JWT settings, and we need to close it, and we need to import the time data. Alright, from datetime. So here we're going to just import it from datetime. We want to import time data. Alright, so that will take out that error for us. So we can decide to maybe increase the lifespan of our access token to maybe 10 minutes or 30 minutes, depends on how you want it. Yeah, let's bring in some other settings, like how we want to access the token in the header, which we have the auth header type. So we're going to be using bearer, just like they specified here. If you want any other kind of settings, you can just go through it and see. And you can go through these settings, and there are detailed explanation of each and every one of them. So you can go through the documentation here. The documentation is actually very detailed. So we have this out of the way. We can save this now and head back to our serializer, where we have our user token now, and this is the object that we want to return when the login endpoint is hit. We return the tokens for authorization, and we also return the user object. Alright, so in our tokens here, we're going to return the user token.get. Remember, we are returning a dictionary, so we're going to use the .get. I want to get the access, and here we want to return. We also want the refresh token, which is also going to be our user token .get. I want to get the refresh. Though they are already string, but maybe to prevent any issues, we can just still convert them to string, but we know we are already converting them to string already. So we can just put, all right, so make sure that we are getting them as a string. That will do for our own validate method. All right, so our validate method is ready. Apart from checking, we can also check if the user is verified. So we can check if the user is not verified. We want to also throw another error that's saying if user is not verified. If is not user dot is verified, we want to raise the validation error. So we save this, we head back to our view and finish up here. So once we have our validation ready and our data is returned back to us, we can basically respond here of this realizers dot data and of status 200. All right, so that's to show that everything was fine. So what we need to do now is just basically bring this into our URL.py file, add it here. Right, so that's that. So once our views is ready, serializer is ready, we can test out our login endpoint now. So now if we head over to Postman, so if we head back, this time we're not going to register, we are going to login / login. In the body, we can still use raw, format should be JSON, and this we need to bring the email. So let's use the email that we just verified, which test user 2. So we're going to grab this. Then for the password, pass the password in. So it's a post request. If we hit send, all right, we are having internal server error. So let's find out what the issue is. Attribute error. Refresh token object has no attribute access. Oh, we misspelled access token. Sorry. Access token was misspelled. So it's supposed to be access token. All right, let's retry one more time. All right, you can see we are having status 200. Okay, we can see we are getting the user email, we are getting the full name, and we are getting our access token and our refresh token. All right, so let's quickly test this JWT token. Let's create a simple endpoint, a protected endpoint that requires the user to log in to access. So that we just create a very simple endpoint. We can just call it test auth user. Yeah, we're going to import the permission from REST framework. So we want to import this authenticated. So this is just going to be a basic get API view. All right. So here we just basically return the dummy data of message. It works. So we just return and respond. So this is just a basic view to test our auth token. So we'll just grab this and then save this, go back to our URL.py file, bring this into. Alright, so set up this basic endpoints. So we can just test now with that token. Alright, so if we grab our token here, endpoint, so it's a get request. We just need to provide that token in our header. This time the endpoint is just profile. All right, so let's quickly test this endpoint now. It's supposed to be an authenticated endpoint, so if we make sure we save. So let's test and send the post request, a get request here. We can see it works. All right, we're getting 200. Okay, so if you remove the token, move our token, and then send, you see authentication credentials was not provided, but once we provide the token, you see that it works. All right, so our users can sign up now, can log in, get their access token and the refresh token, and use the access token to access protected routes. All right, guys, I'm going to stop this video here, and then see you guys. Don't forget to subscribe and also like the video. See you guys in the next video, where we are going to be implementing the forget password reset, logout, and also the social authentication with Google and others. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching.